Basic Terminology of Nichirend Shoshu Video 3. Comparison between the Lotus Sutra and the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings Gonjitsu Sotai. This is the third level of the five-fold comparison. At this level, a comparison is made between the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings preached over 42 years prior to the Lotus Sutra and the true teaching of the Lotus Sutra. The provisional pre-Lotus Sutra teachings are deemed inferior because they are expedient means that were taught in accordance with the people's capacities. The Lotus Sutra is deemed superior because it reveals the ultimate truth based on the Buddha's own mind. The Gosho quote, "Opening of the eyes," unquote, Kaimoku Sho, states that there are two flaws in the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings. One is that the attainment of Buddhahood by people of the two vehicles is not revealed because the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings do not expound the concept of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. However, the Lotus Sutra teaches the doctrines of the true entity of all phenomena and the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. Therefore, it enables everyone, including those of the two vehicles, to attain Buddhahood. The second flaw is that the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings were taught from the standpoint of Shakyamuni Buddha who attained enlightenment in India. In other words, the life of the Buddha from the inconceivably remote past is concealed. In contrast, the Lotus Sutra discards the tentative status of such a Buddha and reveals the eternal life of Buddha from the time of the inconceivably remote past. Through hearing the teachings of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni's followers were able to sever their attachment to the idea that the Buddha first attained enlightenment during his lifetime in India. Furthermore, they were able to realize the eternity of their lives and the seed of Buddhahood inherent within their lives. Comparison between the essential teaching and the theoretical teaching. Honjaku Sotai. This is the fourth level of the five-fold comparison. At this level, a comparison is made between the theoretical teaching and the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra in order to elucidate the superiority of the essential teaching. The Lotus Sutra is divided into the theoretical teaching and the essential teaching. The first 14 chapters of the Lotus Sutra are called the theoretical teaching because the teachings contained therein were expounded from the standpoint of the Buddha who first attained enlightenment during his lifetime in India. The remaining 14 chapters are called the essential teaching because the doctrines contained therein were elucidated by the Buddha who revealed his true identity as Shakyamuni Buddha who had attained enlightenment in the inconceivably remote past. In the theoretical teaching, the principle of the true entity of all phenomena is expounded mainly in the expedient means Hoben's second chapter, and the doctrine of Ichinen Sanzen, 3,000 realms in a single life moment, which enables all people to attain Buddhahood, is revealed. The true identity of the Buddha, however, is not yet disclosed. Thus, 3,000 realms in a single life moment is only a theoretical doctrine in the theoretical teaching. In contrast, the lifespan Juryo's 16th chapter of the essential teaching reveals the true identity of the Buddha, who had attained Buddhahood in the inconceivably remote past. Furthermore, the principle of an actual Ichinen Sanzen was revealed from the standpoint of Shakyamuni Buddha, whose life is eternal. This clarifies the relationship from the inconceivably remote past between Shakyamuni Buddha and the people. Finally, in the essential teaching, the enlightenment of the people, which was only taught as a theoretical possibility in the theoretical teaching, was clearly demonstrated. Comparison between the Buddhism of the sowing and the Buddhism of the harvest, Shudatsu Sotai. This is the fifth level of the five-fold comparison, which compares the surface teaching of the Buddhism of the harvest with the Buddhism of the sowing hidden in the depths. The Buddhism of the harvest was preached for the sake of the people who lived during Shakyamuni's lifetime and during the periods of the former and middle days of the law. The Buddhism of the sowing was expounded to lead the people to the latter day of the law to enlightenment. The Buddhism of the harvest is based on the surface meaning of the words of the lifespan Juryo's 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra. The people who received the Buddha's teaching in the inconceivably remote past of 500 myriad dust particle kalpas ago were those possessing the seed of Buddhahood. They passed the halfway point of 3,000 dust particle kalpas ago and nurtured the seed by listening to the pre-Lotus Sutra and theoretical teachings. They finally attained enlightenment when Shakyamuni preached the lifespan chapter of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. Shakyamuni is the Buddha of maturing and harvesting and the teacher of the true effect. The Buddhism of the sowing is for the people who have never received the seed of Buddhahood. Those without the seed of Buddhahood attain enlightenment by being implanted with the seed of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, hidden in the depths of the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra by Nichiren Daishonin, the true Buddha of the sowing of the true cause. The Daishonin states in the quote, true object of worship kanji no Honzan Sho, the Buddha of the harvest led the people to enlightenment based on one chapter and two halves, while the Buddha of the sowing will lead the people to enlightenment only through the 5 characters of the Daimoku, Gosho, page 656. The one chapter and two halves, centered on the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra, comprise the core of the Buddhism of the harvest. In the latter day of the law, the 5 and 7 characters of the Daimoku hidden in the depths of the lifespan chapter is the teaching of the Buddhism of the sowing. Therefore, from the viewpoint of the Daishonin's Buddhism of the sowing hidden in the depths, the theoretical and essential teachings of the Lotus Sutra are both considered theoretical Ichinen Sanzen. The Myoho Renge Kyo of the sowing hidden in the depths of the essential teaching and preached by Nichiren at the stage of, quote, first hearing the name of the law, unquote, in the inconceivably remote past, is the sole essential teaching of actual Ichinen Sanzen. This is the fundamental law to save all living beings. Comprehensive, concise, and essential Lotus Sutra. Koraku yo no Hokekyo. Comprehensive Lotus Sutra refers to all 28 chapters in 8 volumes comprising the entire Lotus Sutra. Concise Lotus Sutra refers to the 2 chapters, Expedient Means, Hoben 2nd, and Lifespan Juryo 16th. Essential Lotus Sutra refers to the 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo, hidden in the depths of the lifespan chapter. Followers before the latter day of the law practiced the comprehensive and concise Lotus Sutra. However, in the latter day of the law, Nichiren Daishonin teaches in, quote, Essentials of the Lotus Sutra, unquote, I, Nichiren, discard the comprehensive and the concise and employ the essential core, the 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo, which was transferred to Bodhisattva Jogyo, Gosho, page 736. As the Daishonin explains above, people in the latter day of the law are to practice the Daimoku of the 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo, the essential Lotus Sutra expounded by the true Buddha in the latter day of the law. Conspicuous benefit and inconspicuous benefit, Kenyaku Myoyaku. In Buddhism, there are 2 types of benefit, conspicuous and inconspicuous. Inconspicuous benefit does not manifest itself in an obvious manner. It is similar to a seed in the ground that gradually grows to the surface. On the other hand, conspicuous benefit appears directly in a visible form, like a sprout that begins to penetrate the soil and grow toward the sky. In the Gosho, quote, teaching, practice, and proof, unquote, Kyogyo Sho Gosho, Nichiren Daishonin discusses the principles of the conspicuous benefit and the inconspicuous benefit in terms of the 3 periods of the former, middle, and latter days of the law. In the periods of the former and middle days of the law, people attain conspicuous benefit because the relationship they formed with the Lotus Sutra during Shakyamuni's time finally had matured. Now, however, the people of the latter day of the law receive the seed of Buddhahood for the first time. Therefore, their benefit is inconspicuous. Gosho, page 1104. In other words, those who practiced Buddhism in the former and middle days of the law had already received the seed of Buddhahood. Thus, they could attain Buddhahood through the merit of the Buddhism of the maturing and harvesting. This benefit is conspicuous. In contrast, the people who are born in the latter day of the law receive the seed of Buddhahood for the first time. The seeds of benefit are sown deep into the lives of the people in the latter day of the law by the Buddha of the sowing. Therefore, the benefit is inconspicuous. Daigo Hanzen of the high sanctuary of the essential teaching, Honman Kaidan no Daigo Hanzen. This is the ultimate purpose of Nichiren Daishonen's advent into this world. The Daigo Hanzen encompasses all the three great secret laws within itself and was bestowed upon the entire world. Having observed that the Hokkekyo believers of the Atsahara did not hesitate to give even their lives to protect the law, the Daishonin became convinced that the time had come to fulfill his purpose of his advent. He inscribed the Daigo Hanzen of the high sanctuary of the essential teaching, the ultimate entity of the true Buddha, on October 12th of the second year of Koan, 1279, for all people in the latter day of the law to attain enlightenment. In the Gosho, quote, on persecutions befalling the Buddha, unquote, written in October of the second year of Koan, 1279, the Daishonin mentioned the profound significance of the Daigo Hanzen and predicted that he would fulfill his ultimate objective. He stated, it took Shakyamuni Buddha 40-odd years, the great teacher Tiantai 30-odd years, and the great teacher Dengyo 20-odd years to accomplish the purpose of their advent. The great and severe persecutions that befell them during those years are indescribable. I, Nichiren, have already discussed this matter with you. It has taken me 27 years. Gosho, page 1396. The Daishonin entrusted his successors with the enshrinement of the Daigo Hanzen of the high sanctuary of Honmonji Temple at Mount Fuji upon the accomplishment of Kosen Rufu. This instruction was set forth in the, quote, document for entrusting the law that Nichiren propagated throughout his life, unquote, Nichiren Ichigo Guho Fuzo Kusho, which was bestowed on the second high priest, Nikko Shonin. The 26th high priest, Nichikan Shonin, discusses the Daigo Hanzen in the exegesis on the, quote, true object of worship, unquote, Kanji no Honzen Sho Mondan. The Daigo Hanzen of the high sanctuary of the essential teaching of the second year of Koan is the supreme of the supreme, the ultimate purpose of all ultimate purposes of advents. It is, in fact, the foremost of the three great secret laws. Mondan, page 197. This means that the essence of the Daishonin's Buddhism is the three great secret laws, and the Daigo Hanzen of the high sanctuary of the essential teaching possesses the significance of all the three great secret laws within itself. In principle, the Daigo Hanzen is not open to the public until Kosen Rufu is achieved. For this reason, it is currently enshrined for protection in the Ho-Ando. Fortunately, however, due to the compassion of the successive high priests, Nichiren Shoshu believers with sincere faith may request special permission to worship the Daigo Hanzen. Daimoku. The term Daimoku means the title of a sutra. In Nichiren Shoshu, there are three levels of interpretation of the term Daimoku. The first level is the title of the Lotus Sutra in contrast to the titles of all other sutras. Daimoku represents Myoho Renge Kyo as the title of the 8 volumes of the Lotus Sutra, which includes the core meaning of all sutras. The Daishonin states the following in the Gosho, quote, repaying debts of gratitude, Hoan Sho. Titles are essential to convey the contents of a scripture, be it superior or inferior. The 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo, needless to say, are the essence of the 8 volumes of the Lotus Sutra, the heart of all sutras, and the most supreme and correct law revered by all Buddhists, Bodhisattvas, people of the 2 vehicles, heavenly beings, asuras, dragon deities, and so on. Gosho, page 1031. The second level interpretation is the Daimoku of the Buddhism of the harvest. This signifies the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra that was taught in order to lead the people to enlightenment during Shakyamuni's era and the subsequent former and middle days of the law. The third level interpretation is the Daimoku of the Buddhism of the Soin, hidden in the depths. Nichiren Daishonin states in the Gosho on the 3 great secret laws, Sandai Hyosho. Now, in the latter day of the law, the Daimoku that Nichiren chants is different from that of previous ages. It is the Nam-myoho Renge Kyo of the practice for oneself, for Nichiren Daishonin himself as the true Buddha, and the practice for others, enabling others to attain enlightenment as well. Gosho, page 1591. In contrast to the Daimoku that was chanted only as a practice for oneself, as done by Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, Tentai, and others prior to the day of the law, the Daimoku of the Buddhism of the Soin, hidden in the depths of the Lotus Sutra, is itself the enlightenment of the Daishonin, the true Buddha of the infinite past of Kuan Kanjo. This Daimoku enables all people to attain Buddhahood. Moreover, quote, the meaning hidden in the depths, unquote, written by the high priest Nichiren Shonin, refers to the Daimoku of the essential teaching of the 3 great secret laws. The Daimoku of the essential teaching must invariably accompany both faith and practice. Thus, the Daimoku of the essential teaching means to chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo with faith only in the true object of worship of the essential teaching. 6th-volume writing, page 70. This clarifies the significance of chanting the Daimoku in the latter day of the law. Direct attainment of correct observation, Jikedatsu Shokan. This represents the state of enlightenment that the Buddha instantly attained at the stage of first hearing the name of the law in the infinite past of Kuan Ganjo. Nichiren Daishonin refers to this in, quote, on the true cause, unquote, Honin will show, which can be summarized as follows. The true meaning hidden in the depths of the lifespan, Juryo's 16th chapter, is the Myoho Renge Kyo that was practiced by the Buddha at the stage of first hearing the name of the law in the inconceivably remote past. And this is not elucidated in any other sutras. It also means direct attainment of correct observation, as well as Nam-myoho Renge Kyo of actual Ichinen Sanzen. Gosho, page 1684. Nichiren Daishonin embodied the entity of the law, namely Myoho Renge Kyo, in the form of the Daigo Hanzen. Embracing and believing in this Gohonzon is equal to chanting the Daimoku that the true Buddha realized through direct attainment of correct observation. Discarding the provisional identity and revealing the true identity, Hoshaku Kenban. This refers to the Buddha revealing his true identity by casting off his provisional status in order to lead the people to enlightenment. With regards to Shakyamuni, when he preached the provisional pre-Lotus Sutra teachings and the theoretical teaching of the Lotus Sutra, he assumed the figure of someone who was born a prince in the kingdom of India, began austere practices at the age of 19, and attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree at the age of 30. However, in the lifespan, Juryo's 16th chapter of the Essential Teaching, he revealed that he in fact attained Buddhahood at the time of 500 myriad dust particle kalpas ago. And from that time on, he had been guiding and nurturing a significant number of people. This signifies discarding the provisional identity and revealing the true identity of Shakyamuni Buddha. Next, Nichirend Daishonin, the true Buddha in the latter day of the law, discarded his provisional identity and revealed his true identity at the time of the Tatsunokuchi persecution, on the 12th day of the 9th month, in the 8th year of Bunei 1271. Without altering his physical form as a common mortal, he revealed his true identity as the Buddha of the infinite past of Kuan Ganjo, endowed with the property of perfect wisdom. The quote, opening of the eyes, unquote, Kaimokusho states, a man by the name of Nichirend was beheaded between the hours of the rat and the ox on the 12th day of the 9th month in the previous year. His soul has reached Sado Island. Gosho, page 563. This passage is interpreted by the 26 high priests Nichikan Shonin in, quote, the practice of this school, unquote. The Daishonin statement, quote, Nichirend was beheaded, unquote, refers to the termination of his life as a common mortal. The statement, quote, his soul has reached Sado Island, unquote, represents the arrival of his soul at Sado Island as the true Buddha of the infinite past of Kuan Ganjo, who is at the stage of first hearing the name of the law. 6-volume writings, page 181. Doctrinal aspects and observation of the mind, Kyoso Kanjin. Doctrinal aspects refers to the theoretical and doctrinal study of the Buddha's teachings. Observations of the mind means to practice in accordance with the Buddha's teachings. In Shakyamuni's Buddhism, the doctrinal aspects indicate determining the superiority or inferiority of each sutra. Observation of the mind generally indicates the practice of observing one's own mind taught in 10 ties, great concentration and insight, the Makashikan. However, in the Daishonin's Buddhism, observation of the mind corresponds to single-mindedly chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo to the Gohonzon, which manifests the mind and life of the true Buddha. By correctly practicing true Buddhism with one's mind focused on the true object of worship, one will definitely gain the fruit of Buddhahood within one's life. Doctrine of the ascent of the guardian deities to the heavens, Kami Tenjo no Homan. This doctrine is expounded in the Rishon Kokoron on securing the peace of the land through the propagation of true Buddhism. It teaches that if the people of a nation reject the true law and slander prevails, the guardian deities who protect the land will return to the world of rapture. Devils and demonic deities will enter the shrines of the guardian deities, causing various misfortunes to occur. Based on this doctrine of the ascent of the guardian deities to the heavens, the act of visiting heretical shrines has been prohibited in Nichiren Shoshu since olden times, because it is a slander of the law. The Daishonin states in the Rishon Kokoron, I find that all people have gone against the correct law and become wholly devoted to evil doctrines. This is why all the guardian deities have abandoned this country. Seizing this opportunity, devils and demons rush in, bringing disasters and calamities. This is most fearful. We must speak out. Gosho, page 234. Embracing the Gohonzon is equal to observing the precepts Juji Sokuji Kai. In the latter day of the law, to receive and embrace the Gohonzon of the 3 great secret laws is equivalent to observing the precepts of Buddhism, which in itself constitutes the cause for one's enlightenment. The 26 high priests Nichikan Shonin wrote in the, quote, interpretations based on the principle hidden in the depths, unquote. Even without adopting the Buddhist precepts, his faith and practice will naturally be enhanced by embracing the Gohonzon. This will be the same as that of observing the precepts. 6-volume writing, page 88. Entrustment to a single person, Yuiju Ichinen. This means that the master selects only one disciple and transmits the law to him. Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism of the Soin has been entrusted to the successive high priests, starting with the second high priest, Nikko Shonin, who was the first to receive the transmission. The Gosho, quote, 106 articles, unquote, states, however, the essence of the Lotus Sutra has directly been transmitted only to a single person. I, Nichirend, have designated Byakuren Ajari Nikko as the head of the high priest and have entrusted him with all my correct doctrines without a single omission. Gosho, page 1702. Faith, practice, and study. This term represents three basic elements in the Daishonen's Buddhism: sincere faith in the Gohonzon, daily practices of Gongyo and chanting Daimoku while carrying out Shakabuku, and correctly studying the teachings of true Buddhism. These three components are indispensable for attaining Buddhahood. Nichiren Daishonin states in the Gosho, quote, the true entity of all phenomena, unquote, Shoho Jiso Sho, strive forth in the two ways of practice and study. If practice and study are neglected, then Buddhism will cease to exist. You should practice for yourself and lead others to this teaching. Both practice and study originate from faith. You must propagate to others with all your might, even if it is only a single sentence or phrase. Gosho, page 668. In this Gosho passage, the Daishonin teaches us the importance of practice and study based on faith. 52 stages of Bodhisattva practice. There are 52 consecutive stages of practice carried out by the Bodhisattva of Mahayana Buddhism in order to attain enlightenment. These 52 stages are divided into 5 levels of 10 stages, each followed by the 51st and 52nd stage. 10 stages of faith, the 10 progressive stages of a Bodhisattva's faith in the Buddha. 10 stages of stability, the 10 stages where faith teaches the point of non-regression and the Bodhisattva develops a deeper understanding of the Buddha's teachings. 10 stages of practice, the 10 stages where the Bodhisattva experiences continuous joy gained from his practice. 10 stages of devotion, the 10 stages where the Bodhisattva devotes himself to altruistic deeds. 10 stages of development, the 10 stages where the Bodhisattva develops an increasingly steadfast life condition through Bodhisattva practice. 51st stage, near enlightenment. 52nd and final stage, Myogaku, enlightenment. In the Daishonin's Buddhism of the sowing, one does not have to progress through each of the 52 stages of Bodhisattva practice, since one can attain Buddhahood in one's present form by upholding faith in the Daigo Hunzen. 5 impurities, Gojoku. These are the characteristics of the latter day of the law. They are mentioned in the Expedient Means Hoben's 2nd chapter of the Lotus Sutra as follows. Shariputra, the Buddhas appear in the evil worlds of 5 impurities. These are the so-called impurity of the age, impurity of desire, impurity of living beings, impurity of view, and impurity of life. Hokekyo, page 105. The impurity of the age, when corruption and chaos from wars, epidemics, famine, and other social and natural disruptions continue for a prolonged period of time. The impurity of desire, when the people's minds are dominated by the 5 delusive passions of greed, anger, stupidity, arrogance, and doubt. The impurity of living beings, when corruption of the entire society occurs due to the gathering of people ruled by earthly desires. The impurity of view, when the 5 false views bring about mental delusions, loss of reason, and false perceptions of reality. The impurity of life, when the people's lives become degraded with mental and physical deterioration and ultimately a shortened lifespan. Words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, Hokekyu Mongo, explains the interrelationship among the 5 impurities by stating that the impurities of view and desire are the primary causes for the impurity of living beings. The continuing impurity of living beings results in the impurity of life. When these 4 persist over a long period of time, it is referred to as the impurity of the age. Nichiren Daishonin expounds in the, quote, orally transmitted teachings on Nichirend, I, Nichiren, and my followers are not affected by the 5 impurities, since the Lotus Sutra states, This land of mine is peaceful. We are free from the impurity of the age, since our bodies, just as they are, manifest the true aspect of the Buddha's entities. We are emancipated from the impurity of living beings. Because of the cherished doctrines of, quote, earthly desires are in themselves enlightenment, unquote, and the, quote, the essence of the nirvana exists within the sufferings of life and death, unquote, we are liberated from the impurity of desire. From the time without beginning, or the age of 500 myriad dust particle kalpas ago, our lives have existed eternally, and thus we are free from the impurity of life. Since we, quote, honestly discard expedient means and preach only the unsurpassed way, unquote, as instructed in the Sutra, we are unaffected by the impurity of view. Gosho, page 1729. Thus, Nichirend Daishonin teaches that even in the latter day of the law, when the world is filled with the 5 impurities, people are able to attain Buddhahood due to the merit received through the faith and practice of the mystic law, Myoho. 5 periods and 8 teachings, Goji Hakyo. This is a system of classifications to demonstrate the superiority of the Lotus Sutra. The great teacher Tiantai classified Shakyamuni's Buddhist teachings into 5 periods based on the chronological sequence of the teachings, and 8 teachings based on the context and the methodology of the teachings. The 5 periods are the flower garland period, the period of 21 days in which Shakyamuni Buddha preached the Flower Garland Sutra, a profound teaching to judge the capacity of the people. The Agama period, the period of 12 years in which the Agama Sutras were expounded at Deer Park in Varanasi to guide the people toward Buddhism. The Expansion period, the period of 16 years in which provisional Mahayana sutras such as the Amida Sutra and the Vimalakirti Sutra were expounded to refute the attachment of the people indulging in Hinayana teachings. The Wisdom period, the period of 14 years in which Shakyamuni preached the Wisdom Sutras in 16 meetings at 4 places, including Eagle Peak and White Heron Pond, to further develop the capacity of the people. The Lotus Nirvana period, the period of 8 years in which the Lotus Sutra was expounded, and the period of 1 day and 1 night in which the Nirvana Sutra was expounded. Shakyamuni Buddha preached the Lotus Sutra, which was the ultimate purpose of his advent into the world, in 3 meetings at 2 places, at Eagle Peak and in the ceremony in the air, to lead all people to enlightenment. The Nirvana Sutra was expounded later to save the people who had not yet been able to attain enlightenment through the Lotus Sutra. The 8 teachings consist of the 4 teachings of doctrine, which is a classification based on the contents of the teachings, and the 4 teachings of method, which is a classification based on the methods used to expound the teachings. If these teachings were compared to medicines, the 4 teachings of doctrine would be the ingredients of the medicines, while the 4 teachings of method would be the ways of prescribing the medicines. The 4 teachings of doctrine are the Tripitaka teaching, Hinayana teachings, the shared teaching, provisional Mahayana teachings that serve as the path connecting to the truth, the distinct teaching, the teaching expounded specifically for bodhisattvas, the perfect teaching, the teaching that reveals the truth. The 4 teachings of method are the sudden teaching. The Buddha expounded the Mahayana doctrine straightforwardly without being constrained by the capacities of the people. The gradual teaching. The Buddha expounded the doctrines gradually from the superficial to the profound to guide the people according to their capacities. The secret teaching. The Buddha expounded the same doctrine to the people who were unaware that they were actually listening to the same teaching. The people would receive different benefits based on their respective capacities as they listened to the same doctrine. The variable teaching. The Buddha expounded the same doctrine to the people as they listened to the teaching together at the same place. They were aware that they all heard the same teaching. However, they would each receive different benefits depending on their respective capacities.